It's a lot of hypocrisy going on, man, and it's really hilarious how some of these Paige Bueckers fans are making her day about Caitlin Clark.
On our YouTube channel, we're diving headfirst into one of the most polarizing moments in recent women's basketball history. A moment that should have been pure celebration, but somehow spiraled into a cultural tug-of-war. It's a story about triumph, rivalry, and the strange way fandom can twist even the brightest victories into something divisive. Let's unpack what happened when UConn hoisted the 2025 NCAA Women's Basketball Championship trophy, why Paige Bueckers' shining moment got overshadowed, and how Caitlin Clark, who wasn't even on the court, became the center of the conversation. The scene was set in April 2025, with confetti raining down in Cleveland, Ohio, where UConn had just obliterated South Carolina 82-59 in the NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship game. It was a masterclass in teamwork, resilience, and sheer dominance.
Finger, no ring on Caitlin finger. And gonna put the little asterisk. Paige better than Caitlin, just in case Real forgot. We counting rings.
Paige Bueckers, the Huskies' star guard, stood at the heart of it all. Her journey from a devastating ACL injury to this crowning achievement, nothing short of cinematic. For UConn, it was their 12th national title under legendary coach Gino Auriemma, a milestone that cemented their dynasty as one of the greatest in sports history. But within hours, the narrative shifted. Instead of basking in UConn's glory, social media erupted with comparisons, hot takes, and a manufactured rivalry that pitted Bueckers against Iowa's Caitlin Clark, a player who'd already moved on to the WNBA. It's wild to think about. A moment that should have been about one team's victory became a referendum on two players' legacies. On our YouTube channel, we're here to break it all down, celebrating the game, dissecting the numbers, and calling out the hypocrisy that turned a championship into a social media showdown. Ready? Let's go. The game that defined a season. Let's start with the game itself because it deserves its flowers. UConn's 82-59 rout of South Carolina wasn't just a win, it was a statement. The Huskies played with the precision of a symphony orchestra, every pass and cut perfectly timed. Paige Bueckers was the conductor, orchestrating plays with a poise that belied her 23 years. She finished with 17 points, a modest total compared to her earlier tournament heroics, 30 points in one game, 40 in another, but her impact went beyond the box score. She controlled the tempo, broke down defenders, and made her teammates better, embodying the kind of leadership that wins titles. South Carolina, led by coach Dawn Staley, had been a juggernaut all season, boasting a roster stacked with talent and a reputation for suffocating defense.
Some of the same people who did want people comparing Caitlin Clark to Paige and Juju, they're doing the same thing, man. It's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous, man. They couldn't even allow Paige Bueckers to.
But on this night, they were no match for UConn's relentless attack. The Huskies' big three, Bueckers, freshman sensation Sarah Strong, and the comeback kid Azzi Fudd, operated like a well-oiled machine. Strong, a 6'2" forward with a silky jumper and ferocious rebounding, announced herself as the future of the program, dropping 20 points and grabbing 12 boards. Fudd, who'd battled injuries of her own, added 15 points off the bench, her sharp shooting stretching South Carolina's defense to its breaking point. Gino Auriemma, the architect of UConn's dynasty, watched it all unfold with a quiet satisfaction. At 71, he'd seen it all: 12 national titles, countless All-Americans, and a program that redefined excellence. Yet this one felt different. This team, he said post-game, they fought through more than most. Injuries, doubters, expectations. They earned every second of this. His words carried weight, a reminder that UConn's journey wasn't just about talent, but about grit. The numbers backed up the eye test. UConn shot 52% from the field, hit 10 of 18 three-pointers, and out-rebounded South Carolina 40-28.
Huskies defeated South Carolina 82-59 to win the national championship. Now, this is the 12th national title under Coach Gino Auriemma. This UConn team,
they led by as many as 27 points in the fourth quarter, turning a championship game into a coronation. For Bueckers, it was the culmination of a comeback story that began 2 years earlier when an ACL tear sidelined her for an entire season. She'd spent countless hours in the gym, rebuilding her body and her confidence, all for this moment. As she climbed the ladder to cut down the net, Her smile told the story. This was redemption. But the celebration didn't last long. As champagne popped in the locker room and UConn fans chanted in the stands, a different narrative was brewing online, one that had little to do with the game itself. The social media storm barely an hour after the final buzzer, social media platforms like X lit up with posts that shifted the focus from UConn's triumph to a debate nobody asked for, Paige Bueckers versus Caitlin Clark. It was as if some fans couldn't celebrate one player's success without tearing down another. Paige got a ring, Caitlin didn't, one post declared, racking up thousands of likes. Bueckers is moving the needle more than Clark ever could, another claimed, sparking a thread that stretched into the thousands. Suddenly, a championship won by a team was being reduced to a one-on-one comparison. On our YouTube channel, we've got to call this what?
Is the biggest big three, the most talented big three that I can remember in recent history. And these three just coming together, obviously with the role players around them, they have just...
One of the loudest voices came from a former NBA player who posted, "People said Paige isn't as good as Caitlin, that she's not a generational talent. Well, she's got a championship now, something Caitlin never got. So what's the excuse?" The post went viral, amplifying a narrative that framed Bueckers' ring as proof of superiority. Others piled on, "Paige went out a champion, Caitlin couldn't. That's the difference." It was relentless, a chorus of hot takes that drowned out the joy of the moment. What made it sting was the timing. Bueckers had just delivered a performance for the ages, leading her team to a title after years of adversity. She deserved to bask in that glory, to have her story told without caveats or comparisons. Instead, her moment was hijacked, turned into ammunition in a rivalry she didn't ask for. On our YouTube channel, we're asking, why can't we let greatness stand on its own? Why does one player's success always have to come at another's expense? The viewership divide. To understand why this debate even exists, we need to look at the numbers, because they tell a story that cuts through the noise. Women's basketball has been on a meteoric rise, with viewership soaring over the past few years. Much of that growth has been attributed to players like Clark and Bueckers, whose electrifying styles have drawn new fans to the sport. But when you dig into the data, one name stands out: Caitlin Clark. Let's rewind to 2024 when Clark was still at Iowa. Her Final Four matchup against UConn, featuring a head-to-head with Bueckers, drew 14. 2 million viewers, one of the highest ratings for a semifinal in NCAA history. The championship game that year, Iowa versus South Carolina, pulled an astonishing 18. 9 million, making it the most watched women's college basketball game ever.
Looked like a well-oiled machine. They breezed through the tournament. I don't know if there was any close game that they had during this tournament, including the national championship game.
These weren't just numbers, they were cultural moments. Clark's long-range shooting, her swagger, her ability to carry a team captivated audiences far beyond traditional basketball fans. Now fast forward to 2025. UConn versus South Carolina, a rematch of sorts with Bueckers as the star, drew 8.5 million viewers for the championship game. The Final Four games that year, UConn versus UCLA got 1 million, and South Carolina versus Texas got 3.6 million. These are still impressive figures. 5 million made the 2025 final the third most watched in tournament history, but the drop-off from 2024 is stark. More than 10 million viewers who tuned in for Clark's games didn't show up in 2025. On our YouTube channel, we're not here to diminish UConn's achievement. That 5 million is a testament to the sport's growth, and Bueckers' star power played a big role. But the gap is impossible to ignore. Clark didn't just move the needle, she spun it like a DJ at a club. Her games weren't just basketball. They were events drawing NBA fans, casual viewers, even people who'd never watched a women's game before. Practice sessions at Iowa were televised, for crying out loud, and they still outdrew some men's games. The contrast raises a question. What makes Clark's impact so singular? Media experts point to her crossover appeal.
Balled out in the tournament, and before this national championship game, she had a 30-point game, a 40-point game, and then another 30-point game. And Paige ended off the game with 17 points in this national championship game, but she also landed.
Her 40-foot three-pointers were must-see TV, her competitive fire relatable to anyone who's ever trash-talked on a pickup court. She wasn't just a player. She was a phenomenon, someone who made non-fans care. Bueckers has her own magic, her surgical precision, her clutch gene, but her style is more understated, less likely to go viral in a 10-second clip. The numbers also debunk a popular narrative on X, that Buchers was moving the needle more than Clark. If that were true, why did viewership plummet without Clark on the court? The 2025 tournament had everything: compelling storylines, elite teams, a historic comeback for Buechers, yet millions of viewers stayed away. On our YouTube channel, we're keeping it real. Clark's absence left a void, and no single player, not even someone as brilliant as Buchers, could fill it overnight.
Now, Caitlin Clark holds this record at 492 points in 17 games played. And then Shamika Holdsclaw, she has 479 points in 22 games played, and Paige scored 477.
The human cost of comparison behind the stats in the social media wars are two young women who've done nothing but elevate the game. Paige Buchers and Caitlin Clark aren't rivals. They're peers, each carving out a legacy in their own way. Yet the constant comparisons have created a toxic dynamic, one that pressures fans to pick sides and players to live up to impossible standards. Buechers' college career was a masterclass in resilience. After missing her sophomore season with that ACL tear, she returned stronger, averaging 21.9 points, 5.2 assists, and 3.8 rebounds in 2025. Her tournament run was historic: 477 points across 22 games, good for third all-time behind Clark, 492, and Shamik Holdsclaw, 479. She played alongside a stacked UConn roster: Sarah Strong, Azzy Fudd, multiple five-star recruits, which allowed her to share the spotlight. That team dynamic was a strength, not a weakness, enabling Buchers to focus on playmaking and leadership. Clark's path was different. At Iowa, she was the lone superstar,